I'm Dr. Edward Kammerer, the Chief Quality Officer, practicing internist at Mosaic Life Care. The latest thing in the news is the fact that oftentimes people who will have the vaccine can get COVID. This can absolutely occur, especially if your immune system is compromised in any way, shape, or form. However, as we discussed earlier, there are some issues with regards to decreased hospitalization and certainly decreased severity of disease if you've been vaccinated. The current vaccines are very effective still against the variants, and this is critical. One of the biggest pieces that occurs, and goes to our public safety and being present and mindful of where you are in society, is what's called viral load. The amount of virus you get will directly impact whether you do or don't get sick, whether you've been vaccinated or not. You absolutely can still get COVID with the vaccine. However, in all likelihood, it's going to be much less, not require ventilation or significant hospitalization for this. However, that viral load is a huge piece of the puzzle. If you are sitting next to somebody and they're coughing all over you and you expose yourself for 10 hours, you get a much higher load than if you touch a shopping cart. Consequently, that virus has a head start, depending on the load, and it gets off to the races faster than your immune system. Thus, if enough exposure or big enough viral load, even if you've been vaccinated, you can get the coronavirus. Another thing that I think is important about the vaccination is to understand that when you look at the amount of data that we have, the number of shots that we've given in the United States as well as worldwide, I equate it to wearing a seatbelt. There are very few people in this world now who would acknowledge that a seatbelt is not an effective means of preventing death in a car accident. There are people who know somebody who did die with their seatbelt on, or would have been better if they didn't have their seatbelt. But the reality is, everybody knows that a seatbelt is the most effective way to protect yourself in an accident. It's very similar with the immunization. No doubt about it, there are side effects from vaccinations. However, this is the seatbelt for coronavirus. Let's talk about coronavirus and vaccination of young adults as well as those children 12 and above. There are a lot of people who are hesitant to vaccinate their children or their young adults. I think when we have to look at this, again, this is the seatbelt analogy that we talk about. In all likelihood, it is far safer to be vaccinated than to risk the potential long-term side effects that you can get from coronavirus. I could show you dozens of people in my practice who have had permanent hearing loss or long-term side effects from the coronavirus, and I have yet to have any long-term side effects from the vaccine. In addition, vaccinating your children who are 12 or above, even though they may tolerate the coronavirus very well, they are one of the ways that you get the viral load delivered to the parents or to the grandparents. And again, they may not know they're even sick, but they may produce a very large viral load, which can make those around them ill, even if they have been vaccinated. So in order to get us through the pandemic, ultimately, we're going to have to improve our vaccination rates. When you look at the fact that lifespan has increased about 40 years since the turn of the century of the 1900s, the reality is the majority of that comes from vaccinations and antibiotics. It's not cancer care, it's not heart care. It's the fact that society en masse has taken up vaccinations, and there are very few of those childhood diseases that cause all sorts of long-term side effects and high death rates that there were in the past. If you question this, just go to Mount Morris Cemetery inside of St. Joseph, Missouri, and look at the headstones. What you'll see is very high young adult, children, and infant mortality.